Hello and welcome to another video on Her Princess Nook. I hope you're having a lovely day. Today will be my spring TBR or my to be read, and these are books to read this spring, Princess Core and Fantasy Edition. The first book on my TBR is Queen Bee by Emily Howard. This is described as an anti-historical Regency era romp that's Bridgerton meets the Count of Monte Cristo. Doesn't that sound absolutely amazing? Especially because Bridgerton is coming out this May, so I wanted to start off by reading some historical romances, some historical style, Bridgerton style books to get me excited for the new season. And it's really interesting because the main character, Lady Ella Dalby, is basically hatching a revenge plot on her best friend Poppy, who stole her identity. So it's like, it's not just like, oh, who am I going to marry? It's who am I going to marry plus revenge and taking down the person that wronged me. So that sounds really interesting to me, and it's definitely top on my reading list. Then I have A Crown of Wishes by Roshani Chokshi. This novel is actually being adapted into a movie or either a series by Disney. So I'm really excited for that for sure, and that's why I put it on my list, because I wanted to see if I would like the book, and then if I like the book, then I would go and watch the show as well. It's about Princess of Barata. Again, we've got princesses. Sign me up. If you mention a princess, I'm gonna read it. Okay, if you mention a princess, I'm reading it. She was captured by her kingdom's enemies, a prisoner of war. Now that she faces a future of exile and scorn, Gauri has nothing left to lose. But should she trust Vikram, the notoriously cunning prince of a neighboring land? So I think they're gonna arrive at a tournament and go through trials and go through tribulations and see who kind of comes up, who wins. It sounds so exciting, and it just has the most gorgeous front cover. Like, she's dressed in glorious purple, she's on top of a horse. I love books that have adventures and fantasy, and they just have so much fun writing them, and I think is what I'm really gonna like. So I will come back to you with how I felt about this book when I do like my end of spring reading wrap up. Then I also want to read An Improbable Season by Rosaline Eves. It's about three sisters. The first sister, Callie, finds herself embroiled in scandal and reliant upon an arranged marriage to redeem her reputation. Dahlia, the second sister, dreams of becoming a great poet, but is threatened by her attraction to a charming rake. And the third sister, Charis, finds herself an unexpected social hit and the source of a scientific dilemma that her heart might not survive. That is very specific, but also extremely vague. I think all of the plots sound super interesting, and I love dual plots, multiple POVs following different characters, and it's all set against the backdrop of Regency London and like the season and who will I marry. All of these books are just who am I going to marry. Like, I love it for sure. I also wanted to have a mix between reading Regency style historical romance and then going into like actual fantasy and fairy tale like stories. So my first four, like my fairy tales type stories, is Princess of Glass by Jessica Day George. This is just such an interesting plot. Like, let me read it to you. Hoping to escape the troubles in her kingdom, Princess Poppy reluctantly agrees to take part in a royal exchange program, whereby young princes and princesses travel to each other's countries in the name of better political alliances and potential marriages. Again, who will I marry? It's got the makings of a fairy tale until a hapless servant named Eleanor is tricked by a vengeful fairy godmother into competing with Poppy for the eligible prince. Ball gowns, cinders, and enchanted glass slippers fly in this romantic and action-packed happily ever after quest from an author with a flair for embroidering tales in her own delightful way. This book sounds amazing. Like, it genuinely just sounds like, when I heard the Royal Exchange program, I was like, oh my goodness, Barbie Princess Charm School. I don't think it has Barbie Princess Charm School vibes at all. It just gave me. In fact, you know what? From her dress is giving Barbie a princess, the princess and the pauper. Like, that pink dress is gorgeous, and the story just sounds like so much fun. Like, I think, to just de-stress from life, you just need a fun fairy tale like book. Again, it's a princess. I'm kind of thinking it's a spin of Cinderella, but she's already a princess, so that sounds really interesting as well. And I think there'll be just a touch of romance, maybe even a wedding. We'll see. We'll see. Now I also have A Thousand Heartbeats by Kira Cass. She is the author of a selection series. Will I ever read the selection series? Probably not. It's a little bit too camp for my taste. Like, I like royal princessy books in a more historical setting. Like, I don't like if it's modern. I have no idea if these books are modern or not, but they give me modern vibes. And I know they made a really bad pilot series for the selection and it looked modern, so that's why I don't want to read it. But anyways, that's besides the point. We're talking about Thousand Heartbeats. I just thought this had a really like cute plot, and apparently this book is super good. Like, the reviews are really high. It's about Princess Annika, who has lived a life of comfort. Well, duh, she's a princess. Anyways, but no amount of luxuries can change the fact that her life isn't her own to control. The king, once her loving father, has gone cold, and Annika will soon be forced into a loveless marriage for political gain. Again, I'm thinking this is going to be like an epic romance story. Another who will I marry? Will the man I marry me? Like one of those kind of stories. It does sound interesting for sure. I think the guy she'll be with, his name is Lennox, and he thinks love is merely a distraction and nothing will stand in the way in him fighting for his people. So I definitely think we're gonna get a really interesting romantic story. Princess, so we're gonna get dresses. Like, I'm here for the dresses, okay? As long as you describe some really beautiful dresses, I'm gonna enjoy the stories. Um, Oh, I found this interesting. They can't possibly be together, but the irresistible thrum of a thousand heartbeats won't let them stay apart. I don't know if this is literal or metaphorical, so we will see how a thousand heartbeats comes into the story. But I'm really excited for that one for sure. Then we have The Villainess Turns the Hourglass. I've already read this actually. I got up to chapter 70 of this story and I just randomly stopped. I think it's really good. I definitely think it's worth reading. I just think for me, I don't know what it is about when it comes to like historical villainess manhwas. I just I just can't read everything. Like, there'll be like 150 something chapters and I'll read like 80 and I'm like, okay, I'm done. Very rarely, unless the story is so good, will I finish and complete it. Because I feel like a lot of the stories, when you get towards the end, there's a weird gap where it's like the author doesn't know what to do next, and I find that really annoying. And then like the plot picks up later, but I can't wait for the plot to pick up. Okay, but you know what? I will recommend The Villainess Reverses the Hourglass because it's an interesting story. The art is amazing. The dresses are amazing. I think the reason why I ended up not finishing the story was because I found the romance between the main leads really boring. There was no conflict really. Like, they both clearly like each other and they're together and that's it. Like, there's no push. There wasn't. I mean, there was push and pull in the beginning, but they got over it super quickly, and it was just a bit too it was a bit too fast for my liking. So I probably give the story like 6.5, maybe a 7 for the art. Then I have Velux by Anna Godperson. This book is described as Gossip Girl meets the Gilded Age, and that's all I need to know. That's all I need to know. I've read the description. I don't even know what they're talking about. It's just like a bunch of gossip garbage, but it's gossip garbage in big dresses, and that's all I need. Like, that's what I want. I tried to watch the original Gossip Girl and I was bored out of my mind, but you know what, I probably would have enjoyed it more if they were wearing massive ball gowns. So yeah, this book sounds perfect for me. There's 4 in this series, so I'm going to read the first one. If I like it, I'll read the other 3. Because when I read a series, I like to just read it all in one go. Like, I don't like reading one book and then reading 27 books in between and then reading the second book. Because then I forget what happened in the first book. And then it's like, what's the point in me reading the first book and then not reading the others? Unless I don't like it. But I'm thinking I'm going to like this one for sure. Then I also have Jane of Lantern Hill by L.M. Montgomery. Honestly, L.M. Montgomery has written one of my all-time favorite books. ever the Blue Castle. That's not on this list because I read it last year August. You need to go and read the Blue Castle. Like if there's one book that you have to read, it's the Blue Castle by this author. But I really wanted to check out some of her other works. I want to read Anne of Green Gables very soon. Not yet. Okay, I'm waiting for the right moment because when I decide to read Anne of Green Gables, I'm gonna read everything. Like, I'm gonna get the entire box set and just blast my way through all of the books. And I'm just not in that headspace right now. Like, I think it needs to be a time where my life is just very calm and nothing is going on, and I can really just immerse myself in the Anne of Green Gables universe. But that's just not right now. But I thought I would ease my way in with Ellen Montgomery again by checking out Jane of Lantern Hill. I found this book really interesting because I think it's about a girl who ends up going to a cottage and they fix up this cottage, and I was like, this is just peak cottagecore. This is all the spring vibes. This is exactly what I need right now. It sounds like such a fun, charming and classic novel, and that's why it's on my list. Then I have The Fae's Bride by R.L. Medina. This book I actually saw in Darling Desi's YouTube video. She had the book on top of loads of other, like, she was showing like a spring book haul, and I saw this book on her pile, and I went to go and read the synopsis, and it's basically described as a cozy fantasy intertwined with Italian cottagecore and fairycore vibes. That's all I need to know. That's all I need to know. In fact, when I was making this reading list, I was thinking about the vibes that I wanted the reading list to exhibit. So I wanted to start off with the Lux, by Anna Godbersen, a gossip girl, gilded age, parties, fun, rumors, that kind of thing. Then I wanted to kind of go a bit more wholesome by then reading Jane of Lantern Hill, and then I wanted to top it off with The Fae's Bride, so kind of Jane of Lantern Hill vibes, but with romance and fairies as well, with a dash of magic. And speaking of magic, I then wanted to go into the Tale of Magic series by Chris Colfer. I'm just finding out that the author was on Glee. I did not know this. Like, I had absolutely no idea he was out here writing fantastic middle grade novels, but good on him. I am going to read it. The main reason I wanted to read it was because when I say I like fairies, I don't mean Akatar, Sarah J. Maas fairies. I mean Tinkerbell. I mean Winx Club. Give me Winx, okay? The Tale of Magic series is about a girl who wants to become a fairy godmother, I think. I just thought, oh my gosh, like, that sounds like exactly what I like. Unicorns, fairies, quests, adventures. It sounds like a great time. And I also wanted to continue on like a fantasy streak. So I've seen Enchantment by Orson Scott Card. I don't even know where I found this book. I think it was on like a Reddit forum because I was looking for books with Studio Ghibli vibes, and then this book came up and I thought it had such an interesting synopsis, so I'll read it to you. Years later, Ivan is an American graduate student engaged to be married. Yet he cannot forget that long ago day in the forest will convince himself it was merely a frightened boy's fantasy. So, a long time ago, this guy Ivan, he found a princess sleeping in a forest when he was a young boy, and he has a feeling that like, oh, he made it up or whatever, but he has a feeling, he's like, oh, I didn't make it up. So he goes back and then he wakens the princess with a kiss and steps into a world that vanished 1,000 years ago. For me, I just felt, I love fish out of water stories. It sounds like an isekai. Like, I watch a lot of anime, so it sounds, and villainous manhwa as well. So it's like an isekai story to me. Like, he gets whisked away into another world. And you know what? Surprisingly, I don't think I've read a novel where it's like someone is living an ordinary, boring life, and then they end up in a magical world. Like, that sounds so fun to me. It sounds like a great adventure, a fun time. Will he go back to his normal world? Will he stay in that world? What will he see? It's kind of giving Alice in Wonderland, and I really think I'll like it. And it's like a classic novel. Well, not really classic. It was written in the 90s. So I just feel like the writing is going to be really good as well. Then I have The Sword of Kaigen that I want to read. This book has been making its rounds around social media as it's been heralded as such an amazing fantasy book. So big thank you to, I think, a user called Smitty, who has been recommending this book a lot. A lot of people have been recommending it. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna throw it on my TBR. It's described as a military fantasy. I read the plot like so many times and it still doesn't make any sense to me. So I think it's just gonna be one of those where I'm just gonna close my eyes and read it. I really, really hope it's good because you guys have been saying it's good and it's a tiny bit out of my comfort zone, but it's looking like a good time. So I will come back to you again with my spring reading wrap up, and once I've read this, I'll let you know how I felt about it. I thought after reading those heavy fantasy books, I should go back to my roots, which is princesses. And the next book I have lined up is Twin Crowns. It has such an interesting premise, okay? Two sisters separated at birth, raised into entirely different worlds, are about to get to know each other's lives a whole lot better. But as coronation day looms closer and they each strive to claim their birthright, the sinister King's Breath, William Rathbone, I don't know what a king's breath is, I guess we'll find out, becomes increasingly determined that neither will succeed. He will ultimately rise to power and wear the crown. This sounds amazing. It's a trilogy series. The trilogy is completed. What more could you want? What more could you want? It sounds amazing. The other two books in the series are called Cursed Crowns and then Burning Crowns. Wait, I really hope this is this trilogy. Let me just check. I hope it is. It says it's... Is this a trilogy? I don't even know if this has come out. No, it came out, the final book came out April 11th. Okay, I think it's a trilogy. I hope it is, because I'm not reading a fourth book. Like, I can't start long series anymore. It's got to be a trilogy. The next one I've got is Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. I don't know what this is about. All I know is it's about princesses, so I was like, okay. And you know what? I've been wanting to read Brandon Sanderson, but he kind of, like, his books kind of scare me. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna dip my toes. People say start with Warbreaker, start with standalones. So I've got Warbreaker is the one I want to start next. And then finally, I have The Other Side of the Sky. I don't know what this book is about, but the cover is so beautiful. And people says it has Studio Ghibli vibes, sorry. So I put this book on my TBR after I'd finished watching Howl's Moving Castle, and people said it had those vibes. So I was like, great, I will read this very soon. I hope I like it. Apparently it has a really lovely romance, and the sequel just came out. So if you really like the first book, you'll definitely like the second book as well. But I'm just speaking off of speculation here. So yeah. Then I have Flower Heart by Catherine Bakewell. This is another recommendation by Darling Desi. She described this as like cozy cottagecore fantasy with magic and flowers. I'm here for the cover. Like, that is the most gorgeous cover ever. Like, it kind of reminds me of Anne with an E, like her green dress, her red hair, the flowers. I'm going into this book blind. Like, I don't even want to know what it's about. Like, I think it's just this girl who has magic that has like flowery magic, and there's this guy called Xavier. I'm so sorry, but I get annoyed with like the X names just because of growing up on Wattpad and names like Xander, Xavier, Zava, Zega, and I'm like, oh, here we go. Like, you I'm like, there's no way you're gonna call the character Xavier, and I'm like, you were on Wattpad when you read Wattpad. There's no way you didn't read Wattpad, because why is your character's name Xavier? I don't have anything against it though, because he's described as like a mysterious person. So I'm like, was this all from Wattpad? I don't know, but I'm hoping it's going to be a great book if I can look past the name. I'm also like interested in Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. People said it was like a whimsical novel, and it's also standalone, so that sounds great. And again, I want to dip my toes into his work. I'm not gonna go all out with like The Way of Kings or whatever, but I do want to start off with Warbreaker and then Tress of the Emerald Sea. Then I have Her Radiant Curse by Elizabeth Lim. I also want to read another of her books called Six Crimson Cranes, but I don't know which one I want to start with first, so I probably will start with Her Radiant Curse. I just think it's such an amazing plot. one sister must fall for the other to rise. So it's about this girl called Chani. She was not born a monster, but when her father offers her in sacrifice, she's forever changed. She's cursed with a serpent's face, and she's the complete opposite of her beautiful sister Vanna, the only person in the village who looks at Chani and doesn't see a monster, but the only person that she loves and trusts. Now at 17, Vanna is going to be married off, and Chani has to rely on her strength and cunning to defend her sister against all of the suitors that want to marry her. Launching a grisly battle royale, a quest over land and sea, a romance between sworn enemies, and a choice that will strain Chani's heart to its breaking point. It sounds amazing. You know, I love a good epic fantasy. I love books where stuff is happening. Like, I don't like books where nothing. Actually, that's a lie. I like books where nothing is happening, but nothing has to happen with vibes, okay? But at the same time, I can't only be reading books where nothing's happening. I need to read books where we've got a plot. We've got to foil some people. We've got to do some battles, you know? And this looks like exactly that. I love a good mythology type fantasy, and if I like this book, I will read this author's entire backlist. Like, that is my plan. Because all her other books have such amazing, they just have such amazing premises. So I'm like, okay, if I like this one, I will read the others. Because there's another book by her called Spin the Dawn that sounds absolutely amazing. Because it's about like a royal tailor, and like I told you I love dresses, right? So I'm like, we're gonna get the most beautiful description of clothes. But I want to read her Radiant Curse first. If I like it, I will read this author's entire backlist. In fact, I might make a video just talking about all her books. If I go on like a rampage, I read everything. But it just depends. Depends on if I like it or not. These books I'm going to read in preparation for Bridgerton, okay? These are Who Will I Marry books. That is the plot. Who will I marry? Verity and the Forbidden Suitor. Who will I marry? Hathor and the Prince. Who will I marry? Aphrodite and the Duke. That's it, okay? Don't expect anything else. Just expect Who Will I Marry. Alright? I am hoping the writing in these books eats, because I want the writing to eat. Especially because in Bridgerton, they're releasing the first 6 episodes in May, and the next 6 episodes in June. I don't even think it's 6 episodes. I think it's even 4. Why am I even saying 6? I think it's 4 episodes. So because of that, I need some books to tie me over. Okay, I need some Regency fun. I need some, diverse leads and stuff. So I'm gonna be reading the Dubelle series by JJ McAvoy. Please don't disappoint me. I want to be enthralled. Okay, I want the vibes. I want the dresses. I want the scandal. I want the fun. I will let you know which one out of these is my favorite, because I think all of them are sisters. That's the premise. Like, they're all sisters and they fall in love, and yeah, who will I marry? But yeah, thank you so much for listening to my TBR and my reading list. I love reading. I love reading books about princesses and fantasy and fairies and just magical adventures. So if you have any more recommendations for me, please let me know. I probably will read it. I'm very easy to please. Seriously, I'm really easy to please. And I'm the type of person where with reading, even if I give a book a star rating, I usually just put books into 2 camps. I like it or I didn't like it, you know? There are books that I really, really, really like, but that doesn't negate the fact that even books that I don't like as much, that doesn't mean that I didn't like them. You know what I mean? Like, as long as it gave me the vibes I needed, you gave me big dresses, you gave me gossip, you gave me fun, you gave me laughter, you gave me the vibes, you made me feel like a princess. You've succeeded. You've succeeded. I like you, you know? Like, I don't feel like the star rating's a bit arbitrary. Like, I think, because, for example, if you go on Goodreads, and you read one bad review, you might not end up even reading the book. Like, I've done that so many times where I just read one bad review and I'm like, I'm not reading it. But I might, that could have been my next favorite book, and I wouldn't know because I was going off a bad review. So my advice when it comes to reading books is like, just go in blind. You know, go in blind Out of all these books I've mentioned, if there's one that interests you, just go and read it. Like, don't even think, oh, is it good? Should I spend ages going through Goodreads reviews? No, just go and read it, and you'll be pleasantly surprised about how much you enjoy it. I think from this list, the book I'm most intrigued about is The Sword of Kaigen, just because I've heard so many people raving about it, okay? But I don't think I'm in this headspace to read military fantasy straight away, so I'll ease myself up with my silly little Regency historical romps, and then we'll go into like intense fantasy. And I'm also really excited for Enchantment by Orson Scott Card. That one looks really good. You know, I'm a fan of the isekai genre, or ish. I don't think I'm the biggest fan, but I think I like the concept of isekai, so I'm hoping I'll like that novel as well. But yes, this has been Her Princess Nook. I hope you guys have a lovely day, happy reading, have a happy week, and go forth. Thank you so much for watching this video, and comment down below with a heart and your favorite book.